I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for sharing your lunch with me. It was so great when Laura reached out and we realized we had a mutual friend, and she said, I think this really can fit for us. And I said, I'd love to come. It is just my delight to talk about this because I know how important it is. This all really came out of my own story, is how I started doing research in this area. So, to that end, of course you all know why you're here. I don't have to tell you this is Aware. What an incredible program. You're so lucky to have access to it. And just, I'm so glad to be here. So, my company is called Yes, It Takes Moxie. And in fact, I love this word so much I had it tattooed on the inside of my wrist. My favorite is when I sometimes do programs and women go, oh my God, as if this is like I'm like, no, I'm not messing around. So just in case you're not hip to like 20s slang, Moxie is force of character, determination, or nerve. I encourage you all, if you want, I put up social media on here, take pictures of slides, take pictures of me, tweets, that's fine, it won't bother me, I know you're listening. So here we go. And Yes, It Takes Moxie. So here's the question, right? If we're talking about imposter syndrome, let's start with credentials, right? Why on earth should you listen to me? Well, for starters, as I said, this really came out of my own experience. There was something called the National Body Love Convention, and it was the very first of its kind, and it was started by this incredible blogger named Jess Baker, who's known as the Militant Baker. Anybody ever heard of her, maybe? No? Yes. So she's incredible, and she does all this really revolutionary stuff, and she put out a call. Hey, come tell me what you're an expert in, and I want to hear from you. And so I said, well, how about social media? And so I developed a presentation called How Social Media Helped Me Stop Lying. Inflammatory title, right? Because I'm a marketer, right? I know it's going to get people's attention. And it's going to be about social media, which is going to be interesting. So I went through the application process, which was a written proposal, and then I had to make a video, and I had to do a little bit of the presentation, and I was selected, and I just couldn't believe it. I started looking at the roster, and it was women whose work I've admired for years. And as I worked, and I did practice sessions, and I invited people, and people were really resonating with it, it was maybe a week before I was supposed to go, and all of a sudden I thought, I don't have any real authority on this topic. Like, I'm just talking about what I decided to do and kind of made my life a little better. And I was looking at the women who I'd be speaking with, and they were people who had dedicated their entire lives to body positivity and empowerment and sociology and entrepreneurship, and I thought, who the heck am I? I don't have any authority. And what's worse is I thought, I fooled them, right? I'm an actress, I know how to tell a really great story. All I've done is told a really super story and they bought it, and I'm gonna go and they're all gonna find out that I am just full of you know what. And I was horrified and I was breaking down and I was ready to cancel the trip. And a good friend sat me down and said, you've given this presentation now to hundreds of people here in the area. And everyone has resonated with it, given you good feedback. If we all can understand this message and relate to it, then surely people in Tucson can as well. And that's what makes you an authority. It's your own story. So as I thought about that experience, and I got to the Body Love Conference, and I heard that from more and more other presenters, I realized there was really something here. If, a woman named Pia, who I have admired for years and has this incredible website, is sitting thinking like, I don't really think I'm a very good speaker, then how on earth has this not a major problem? The other thing I want to make sure I say is that this is absolutely a conversation. I get excited and I go really fast, so there's the apology in advance. But please jump in, raise your hand, just start talking. This is for all of us. So, any of this sound like you? Let's do some hand raising since you're eating, so you don't have to have your mouths full, or just some nodding will work. Right, so do you ever chalk up your success to just luck or timing? Yes, that's me. Do you believe if I can do it, then anybody can? Right? We can all just learn this. Do you agonize, this is so me, do you agonize over the smallest flaws in your work? I'm gonna be super authentic, yes, because this is all about being authentic. So I was reviewing this presentation last night for a final check, and then I was working on it this morning, and I thought, let me just see if I can smooth that part out. And so here's the printout and the notes. I had imposter spelled incorrectly on the front slide, and this is not the first time I have given this presentation. Oh, really? Oh, see, no, that makes you feel way more valid. That is excellent. But I was like, oh, Julia. So anyway, so clearly that is a big deal, but I was like, I can't talk today. I don't even know how to spell what I'm talking about. All right. So when you succeed, you secretly feel like you fooled them again. right? That's Body Love Conference for me. The militant baker's mom actually chose my session over really exciting people. And she said, I just loved it. She said, I loved your video, I loved you, it was so great. And I was like, haha, fooled you. But not really. And then do you ever worry that it's just a matter of time before you're found out? Yeah. I wish I didn't understand these things, but I do, and I think we all can relate to these things in some way. So what I want to give you today are some really concrete tools to work on the muscles that can help minimize this. You know, Laura mentioned, right, we've had this topic before, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. But just like running or singing or, you know, using your math skills or talking to kids, it's a muscle. I really believe it's a muscle. And we're going to talk about some of that today. So I want to do some profiles a little bit. And so these are inspired by real people. So do any of these people sound like you or someone you know? So Arabella is the CEO of a national company, and her look is very modern and edgy. And she talks across the country on behalf of not only her company, but her entire profession. People assume that her home is filled with like really exotic art that no one understands. But in all honesty, she's usually wearing jeans and out working in her garden and never minds getting her hands dirty. Every time she gets up to speak, she worries that she has nothing to say, despite the fact that she's been in her profession for decades. And maybe even worse, sometimes she doesn't know what to do each day when she gets to work. Anybody? Parts of that relate a little bit? How about my friend Rosalie? Rosalie is completely overwhelmed. She feels like she'll never know everything that she needs to know in order to do her job well, and she cares so much about her job. Her husband has told her that it's okay for her to quit, but she knows that she makes a small difference for her customers every single day. But when she comes home, she's absolutely exhausted and has nothing left for herself or her family or her friends. All of her peers look to her for answers, and her supervisors would do anything they could to keep her. She is seen as the MVP, but she feels like she can't even keep her head above water. Yeah? Will that relate? Yeah. All right. How about my friend Naomi? Naomi is constantly told that she has so much to give. She's surrounded by encouragement and has a long list of recognitions to match. But every time she's ready to finish a project, she stops and looks at it and appraises it, and very quickly decides that it actually doesn't have any value. It's usually too late to do anything else. It usually turns out well, and she knows she's worked really, really hard, but she can't help but think that she's just good at selling it. That sound familiar to anybody? Yeah. How about Vivian? Vivian has a huge holiday party every single year. Everything in her house is beautiful and perfect and unique and different. All year long, she and her husband are seen at all the right places, they meet all the right people, and they put on the best dinner parties ever. She bakes cookies for school, she has Longaberger baskets in her office, but her home life is an absolute wreck. She's really kind of just the shy girl who people think is sometimes snotty, and she doesn't know what to do. And finally, my friend Luella. Luella's been her job for about 15 years. But she's suddenly worried that she might be aging out a little bit, and that there's new technology coming in, or new ideas coming in, or people who will do it younger and cheaper, and she's not as secure as she once was. Her daughter is nearly done with college, and she feels like it might be time for a change, but she has no idea what to do next. So we're really all a mix of these at any given time. And so the most powerful thing I can say is it's not just you. I've joked that that's the end of the presentation, like drop the mic, it's not just you, thank you, you know, like, that's not right, that's not it, right? But really and truly, that is such a powerful thing, right? When I was at that Body Love conference, that was so important. Imposter syndrome makes you feel isolated. It makes you feel like you have a horrible secret that no one else can relate to and no one else will know. And it makes you just want to turtle, right? And get into your shell even smaller. And so one of the first things we can do, and that's why I'm so glad we're all here, is just shine some loving light on it and say, hey, it's not just you. Like, it's everybody. Everybody who chose to be here, everyone who talks about this, it's not just you. It is an absolute vicious cycle though, right? So it starts with fear. So then fear, so what are we going to do to cover up that fear? Let's work really, really hard, right? Let's work crazy hard, and we're just going to cover it all up, we're going to improve, we're going to do more, we're going to do more, and then we get to the end, and we're like, I don't know what to say better, so now I'm afraid that it's not good enough, so I'm just going to keep doing more, I'm just going to do more, and now I'm back with my fear, right? And it just keeps perpetuating. You cannot work yourself out of it. If it could, we'd all be done, right? You're like, look, I worked hard, ta-da, we're done. It doesn't work like that. People say, oh, just make it till you make it, right? Oh, it's no big deal, just act like it's all fine. But if we could fake it, right, that doesn't work. That's why we're afraid, right? We are faking it. That doesn't make the fear go away. I found this amazing statistic, and it's kind of a wide range, but 70 to 85% of people relate to this at some point. That's not gender split, that's not age split, that's not profession split. So far more than not. Understand this. And I think everyone has stories from their life, whether you realize it or not. But like I said, being in this room and hearing that this is so common is really, really powerful. Any thoughts before I move ahead? Anyone jump in? Can I get a hell yeah? Yeah.
I was wondering about the role that you think this idea of negative self-talk kind of plays into that. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Absolutely. I think that's a big part of it. The idea of imposter syndrome is like they're going to find out right there. And so that has tons of pieces, right? It might be that the tapes in my head are telling me I'm not doing a good job, I can't do this, no one's going to find out. It might be, I don't want to say misinterpreting, but skewing how you receive information from someone else, right? So your boss is in a rush and says, hey, nice work, and you go, they just said nice work, not wonderful work, and they didn't really say what the work was, and so that must mean that they don't really like something, right? So you start to kind of distort everything around you. And it shows up when you seek fewer opportunities, right? And you work less confidently, and you're not as much of an inspiration to the people around you. So I think you're absolutely right on. Yeah? All right. So how did this happen? I really spent a lot of time thinking about this, right? Like, these are the images of my youth, right? Like, here we go, right? I totally remember having the Weekend Girls Could Do Anything game right Barbie, right? And so these are the pictures that I grew up with, right, with my kick-ass mom, and like, so how the heck did I become a woman who thinks she can just talk? You know, like, what happened? So there are so many forces working against all of us, right? Media is an easy way to label all of that, right? But think about the images, the negative reinforcement, all the companies making a ton of money on making sure that you feel like you're not pretty enough, thin enough, smart enough, good enough, or that you need to have the shoes, the coat, the trip, the car, right? That's how people make their money. And that's okay, but part of that, through the advertising, as a person who's worked in advertising, is to manipulate us, right? And so when you start having that narrative changed and you just can't avoid it, it really is going to start to eat on you. The other thing is that it is so much more likely to experience some kind of feelings of imposter syndrome when you're on the outside. So that's age, that's experience, that's gender, when you go to a new location, if you switch jobs, just when something about you doesn't feel like you're part of the team. And that can be something external or just something in you. When I got to that Body Love conference, I was older than anyone else who was speaking by 10 years, and I felt like the grandma, which was weird because I was in my early 30s. But I felt, oh my gosh, I thought everyone else is young and way more connected than I am. And that was part of it as well, as I look back on it. I felt like an outsider, even though I wasn't. I was really right behind it. The other thing I like to talk about is who is at your table. And I talk about this all the time with friends, and as I talk with people and coach through some of this Moxie stuff, you know, when we say like, well, everyone's going to find out, right? Or no one understands, or everyone thinks I'm this. Usually that's a group of 4, 5, or 6 people, right? It's not really everyone in the whole wide world. It's just this subset of people. And I call those people at your table. I got that from someone else, and it's not original. So anyways, and it's important for me to understand who's at my table, especially when I'm not feeling great. Right? When I'm like, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't go for this great opportunity because no one's going to understand what I'm doing. So it's not really no one, right? It's probably like one person who said something crappy to me once. It might be, you know, someone who co-presented with me and didn't understand what I was doing. It might be one audience member who sat and looked disconnected and I felt like they didn't understand even though they were just having a really bad day. So I think understanding who's at your table will help you understand those tapes in your head, the way that you're filtering. Does that resonate? At your table? Yeah. And it changes. For me, depending on my situation, I have different people at my table. Sometimes the people at my table are wonderful. Sometimes they're monsters. But that's all part of this. So this other idea I want to talk about is the shadow self. It's a little hard to see up there. I don't know if anybody here reads the Oatmeal. Yes? No? Yes? So I love the Oatmeal, really mostly for the grammar stuff, because I'm a big grammar geek. But he recently did this stuff all about the blurch, right? So he's decided to get into running, and he says, I don't run for motivation, I run for the blurch. And the idea is that really this is what he's afraid of being. This kind of, to him, right, like gelatinous, overweight, lazy thing with wings and a headband, which I think is hysterical. And so as I saw this, and we think about like Jekyll and Hyde and all kinds of crazy movies, all this is really pointing to something that, there's this book called The Tools, I don't know if anyone knows it, there it is. Great book, and they talk about the shadow self. That's the best word I can use to explain what this is. So I'm just going to read from it because it's way better than I can all which is fine. Sometimes you just have to know that. As children, we learn to shape and trim our persona to get the love we needed to survive. Everything about us that did not fit our evolving idea of ourselves, we banished, suppressed, repressed, exiled into the shadowy self-creature, this negative reflection. The shadow is made up of all the parts of us that we have disowned. Right? This is you're too loud, you're too pretty, you're too ugly, you are wearing too weird of clothes, right? You like too much art, you like too much weird stories, you are too fast, you're too slow. It's all those things that kind of had to be made smaller to fit into how we thought we needed to survive. And so all those things that we have to let go of are the things that make up our shadow self. And they're all the things that were petrified someone else's things. So we only see those things when we reflect them onto others, right? This is that cheesy thing that I hate, but there's something true about it, which is like, when you have somebody who really makes you crazy, and you're like, well, whatever it is about them that, makes you crazy, that's the thing about you that you don't like. And I just hate it when people say that, because there's kind of something really true about that. That's the idea of the shadow self, right? So the price that we pay for suppressing this is we end up with less creativity, we end up with less confidence, and we end up with less authenticity. Because we're so insecure, we're so wrapped up in making sure that people don't know these things about you. And it's not necessarily a conscious thing. It's in tiny, tiny decisions. It's funny, when I came in and I finally got to meet Dina and Laura in person, the first thing I thought was like, I wear my hair curly every single day. And I woke up this morning and decided to do it straight. My choice. But I thought, like, oh, it's a little more serious. I should probably do straight hair today. And I was like, I could have been in the curly hair club, and I would have been happier and more authentic if I had worn my hair curly. So instead I have my wrap your earring on, which I love. If you want to come check it out. It's just fun and it's adorable. Anyways, but so like those are the parts of yourself. I sat down with somebody who had all this great data about how curly-haired women aren't taken seriously, right? And like my curly-haired sisters, I'm sure will understand. And especially in really important meetings. And so I smooth out my hair when I really need something, or specifically if I'm asking for money. And I hate that it works, but it really does. And so that curly-haired self, right, whatever it is, that too loud self, that raptor earring wearing self, are all the things that make up our shadow. And so if we can look inside ourselves to find that shadow, or when we look inside ourselves to find that shadow, we end up feeling ashamed. And so we deny it, and we hide it, and we evade it, right, and we try to suppress it. And because we can't find it on the inside, we end up looking outside for more of our self-worth. And if this worked, then celebrities would be the happiest people in the world, right? Right? They would never be in rehab, they would never have addiction issues, all their money would solve all their problems. But it absolutely does not work. And so the only thing that I have found that work is embracing the worst parts of yourself. Hold them up on a pedestal, tell them they're beautiful, love them, love them, love them, and be super vulnerable, right? Show people that you misspelled the title of your presentation, or not. Right? Like, love your raptor earring every single day. What you end up with when you can be vulnerable is this great quote, which is about not being an authority that comes from anyone outside of you. It's a thing that you can only get when you speak from inside. So how do you do it, right? Oh, great, yep, this is all great, be authentic. Great, thanks, have a good lunch. So the best exercise that I have comes from these two guys. And it's the idea of envisioning like that lurch, right? Try to envision something that embodies all the things you're afraid someone's gonna find out about. And it's kind of a horrible thing. And you kind of get in a quiet space, and sometimes it comes fast and sometimes it comes slow. But if you can put it into some kind of little, or big, physical manifestation in your mind, and then when it comes time to speak and you need to speak with real authority, you don't hide it. You don't put it in the box. You don't stuff it under here. You instead take it with you. You put it on your shoulder, you hook arms with it, and you say, we are here to speak to you, right? Me and the ugliest parts of myself are right here together. And it's a muscle. This really is a muscle. And doing this really has changed the way that I approach new opportunities, and it's changed it for a lot of other people. Because no one else can see it, right? You guys don't know what's here, right? But look, I know what's here. I know exactly how it looks. And we are arm in arm and we are together. And so instead of trying to be less of myself, I am more of myself. And that kind of visualization really is a muscle that will change things for you. And it's really a muscle that you can grow, just like running. Your shadow self changes over time. It always looks different. But you have to kind of remember that we are in a room full of mirrors. I would love an illustration that had this. You know, we go to a party. I have a friend who just hates going to parties because she feels like everyone is scrutinizing her head to toe, right? Like my hair, my makeup, my eyes, you name it, right? What I'm saying, how I sound, who I came in with, how I smell, like she just can't do it. And I told her, you know, we all feel, right, like everyone's got these like laser focus things on us, but everyone really has mirrors kind of like this, right? No one's looking at you, because everyone's looking at themselves. Does this resonate? Yeah? So here's my question. Like, why go through this? Right? Like, why spend time trying to turn, and I know I've kind of breezed past it, but like, why spend time trying to really uncover all the worst parts of yourself, turning them into an imaginary friend and trotting it around with you? Like, why go through with that, right? Like, if you're really gonna do it, it's gonna be a hard, ugly thing. So I say the reason to do it is because when you get better, everyone around you benefits. I gave a presentation about imposter syndrome, and also about body specifically, about people who are like, I love the way I look, but then go home and cry, right? Or like starve themselves, or overindulge. And that was what it was about. And the woman came up to me afterwards and she said, I learned how to hate my body from my mother. And I went, yep, I'm sure, right? There are a lot of people who have that story or a version of that story. And she said, I never felt like it was worth it for me to do anything about that. That was just how it was. She says, but now I realize that my daughter deserves more. Yeah. And all of a sudden, she looked at what she was giving out in the world, not about her, right? Not with the mirror in front of her, but about what happens around her. And I gave her a hell yeah and a right on, right? That's exactly why, right? Because you may feel like, look, I'm coasting through, I'm fine. It doesn't really matter if I wake up every day and I'm not real sure if I'm good at what I do, and I don't know if I should chase after that opportunity. But there are so many people looking to you as a leader that you may not realize. It might be children, it might be friends, it might be people you've only met occasionally, it might be somebody who follows you on Facebook. You have no idea, but you're impacting other people's lives. And that's why I think it's worth it to go through the hard stuff of being military. So one of the other things I say is that you should really come up with some kind of a real reason to do this. Call it a mission statement, call it a purpose, call it whatever it is. It's the thing that gets you through it when it's really, really hard. So for me, my mission statement is to inspire bravery. I know that's what it is. No matter what I do, be it being in a show, doing talks like this, being at work and stepping up and saying the hard thing that nobody wants to say in the room, all those things, I think it's important for people to live a brave life. And I know that I have benefited from other people's bravery, so it's my job to try to carry that forward. And so I challenge you to really think about that. Not just to bring a new product to market, not just to serve people, not that any of those things are just, sorry, let me caveat that, right? Not to serve people, not to do those things, but to really figure out why you're doing it and why it matters. And it's got to be something that'll get you up every single day. Yeah? So remember our ladies? Let's talk about that. So Arabella's whole thing was, right, they're going to find out that I don't deserve this title. She was the one who did some speaking nationally on behalf of her profession, was a CEO. Everyone assumed she had this really arty life, but she really just kind of wanted to be in her garden, in her jeans, and never really knew what to do when she got to work because she didn't know how to be a CEO. What's that mean? Does this relate for anybody? Does this ring in for people? Yeah? So for her, and this ties right into what we're talking about, the key to her overcoming this is to really remember why she's doing it. In the case of this person, right, she's the CEO of a company and she speaks passionately about her profession. That is really what needs to be in the focus of her life, and that'll help get her over it. Not the external, right? Not the what am I wearing, who am I doing, what's my title, how's this happening? If she can stay focused on that, all the rest will fall away, right? And she can stay moving more on that. My friend Rosalie, they're gonna find out I can't get it all done. This is one that I relate to big time, right? She's the one, MVP, everybody wants to keep her. She goes home at night exhausted. She feels like she has none of the answers, yeah? So the problem is there's always going to be more to do. And there's always going to be more to learn. Your inbox will never be empty, right? We've all heard that. I say it to myself every day. It doesn't mean I accept it anymore, but I keep saying it. But the problem is that in this example, she's focused on this imaginary ideal of what it looks like to be competent, right? In her mind, being competent means having all the answers, wrapping it all up by 5 or 5:30, going home, putting dinner on the table, or whatever it is to her. She's got an idea of that. So the remedy for Rosalie is to be more vulnerable, to really bravely own what she doesn't know. Instead of having to be the one with all the answers, to go ahead and ask the questions. We were talking before about different groups of people and who's quiet and who's not. And we said that Karen was sharing with me that she had a bunch of professors in here and that no one wanted to ask questions because sometimes you're afraid of, if you ask, then you're showing what you don't know. Right? And that to me is so a Rosalie kind of a thing, right? So just don't be afraid. Just understand the power of asking questions. Naomi says they're gonna find out I'm nothing special, right? Naomi's the one who gets all the way to the end of her project and goes, I don't really think this looks very good. I don't really think I've done anything special. I've worked really, really hard though, I swear I have. And so these are perfectionistic tendencies, right? This is constant drive, this is never enough. This is one that I relate to in a big way. I took a young lady to Purdue, and it was a whole thing about getting young girls interested in STEM. It was kind of like girls right at the beginning of junior high. And the thing that resonated with me so much, and this may be old news to the room, but it was revolutionary to me, is she said, when we talk to boys about what it takes to be really great in the STEM field, we say, you have to be able to do the math and science. And they hear, not fair. When we say it to girls, more or less as a rule, they say, oh, A's, maybe B's. And she's like, the boys are right. She's like, she goes, we've had to refocus the way that we talk to young women about getting into STEM and saying, you don't even have to love it. You just have to be able to do it. And I was like, holy cow, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I, as a young lady, really thought about a career in STEM and I just loved math. But then I'm not even kidding. I got a B on a calculus test and I was like, well, that's the end of that. I mean, really and truly, I thought that's it. And there was no one that could tell me that that wasn't right and that in fact was part of it. And so that is part of the remedy for Naomi, right? Is that space between perfect and complete. You need to embrace the good enough and be more present. Yes, you will look back on things that you've created with regret, but there is so much less if you work hard and accept that you are always going to put your best effort forward. That's a hard one for me. How about Vivian with the perfect house and the perfect parties? And she says, they're going to find out how ugly my beautiful life is. It's a critical gaze that you've turned on to yourself, if you can really relate to Vivian. I have a really good friend who has inspired this. And what I tell her all the time, she's a photographer as well. Sorry, let me backtrack with a little story. She's a photographer, and she takes amazing pictures of people all the time. And people just say, you've captured the heart of my family. And I just love it. Not just the pictures of us, but the heart of us. And it was time for her to have her family portrait. She had a baby girl who was about a year old, and so she and her husband and her daughter were going to get their pictures taken. And she just sent out a cry to friends. How am I supposed to do this? My hips look like this. I look like I haven't slept. I hate the way this looks. My husband needs a haircut and he won't get it cut. And she's gonna puke. I just know she's gonna puke in the picture. And she just couldn't imagine having that lens on her, even though that's what she does every single day. Yeah, right? You're chuckling. And so what I said to her was, can you look at yourself through the eyes of the people who love you. Can you look at yourself the way in her case, her daughter and her husband love you, instead of looking at yourself your own way? And if you can't do that, can you look at yourself the way that you look at that? And it was changing for her. It made perfect sense. The pictures are beautiful. I always say I should pull up a picture of her because they're gorgeous. Not because her family is gorgeous, but because you just feel the love coming out of that family. But it's taking that critical gaze of other people, turning it on yourself, and then filling it with a whole bunch of love. And just trying to see yourself the way that other people see you, which is always kinder, right, than what we do. Luella had been in her job for about 15 years and is probably at a place of a life shift and just kind of doesn't know what to do. And so it's a new chapter, it's new rules, so now what, right? It feels like everything is open, which can sometimes be the scariest feeling in the whole wide world. And so the advice for Luella is to go be the expert somewhere where you can. So go mentor someone, and go be really authentic, and go honor how far you've come. Go find someone who reminds you of yourself, and try to give them some of the tools that got you to where you are, no matter where that is. There's a fear with Luella that people will find out that she's just kind of always been doing what she's been told, right? That maybe she's, again, not really an expert. But when you can be with somebody who needs your mentorship and needs your guidance, it's a great opportunity to hear those questions, to re-excite your passion, and realize just how far you've come and how much further you have to go. Thoughts on them? Questions? How are we doing on time? Oh, good. We're right on time. So this is one of my all-time favorite videos. This is called Girls First Ski Jump. Has anyone seen this by any chance? It is just one of my absolute favorites. So I'm going to play it for you and talk over it because that's what I do. That's how I roll. So this is, I'll set it up just a little bit, and the resolution isn't great. So this is a young lady who is doing her first, and I forget, I'm not a skier, but it is a new level of difficulty for her, is what it is. And so she's looking for a lot of reassurance, and you'll hear her. She's going to kind of narrate it herself.
Here goes something, I guess.
I know.
Do this. I'm gonna jump. Whoa, my ski's slipping off.
Just remember, never snowplow, okay?
No snow plows.
Keep it straight, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Keep going fine.
Straight. Do you go faster on the end run?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Is it any steeper, do you think? Not much.
Same steepness, it's just longer.
Well, just longer. Just longer. Just a bigger 20, that's all.
Yep.
So
Now,
when you push it down before, whatever that means.
I got it. Okay. Here. I go. Just a suspense at the top at the first time freaks me out. That's the only thing, it's so fun! Huh? 60 seems like nothing now.
I just love that. It brings me joy every single day. And I want to just talk a little bit about it. I'll show you. Hang on. Oh, of course, I went all the way back. Sorry, guys. Because I always capture this. Here we go. Here we go. Right, so what she did takes a ton of moxie. And I just love this child, with her arms in her ear. So let's talk about it, right? So she starts off, and she's done this before, and now here's the new thing, right? And it's harder, it's twice as hard. And this is like a 40, right? And she's gonna do a 60. Someone has to explain this. She's all set, right? And she's looking for reassurance. Tell me what it's like, right? Is it harder? Is it steeper? Do you go faster? I've done this before. Tell me what to do. Then she says, it's my favorite part, she goes, here I go! And she does not go, right? And that to me is the thing I cannot relate to, or if I try. And then she kind of has to stop, and she has to gather herself, and when she finally decides it's time, it's quiet, and it's steady, and it's calm, and she says, here I go. And off she goes, right? And she goes, and she gets to the end, and she says, gosh, the next thing's gonna be no big deal, right? This is great. It's just at the top, it's just the being afraid. And so this to me is such a perfect dovetail with imposter syndrome, right? We worry so much about the people at our table and who's gonna think what and who's gonna find out that we're not what we are. But if we can just embrace those scary parts of ourselves and speak with real authenticity and practice being the ugly parts of ourselves and just jump in, then we end up like this. And that takes a whole bunch of fun. So there we go. There's your big bullet point. So another great quote, Sigmund Freud. This is how you get in touch with me. I'll take your emails. I'll send you more information on kind of how to build that muscle and things like that. I hope you'll keep in touch. I hope this was a great use of your time today and that you walked away with something that really helped you and is going to move you forward. You all inspire me. And thank you so much for your time.